Hello there, and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing awesome out there, getting it done, both in and out of the gym. Before I begin, again, just grateful for all you listeners out there and the real kind messages. I am happy to be able to help those who are looking for answers that they may not get by surfing the interweb, where I'm just trying to keep it real, anecdotal, self-experience. And if I'm wrong, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm not ashamed to admit it. But we're going to talk about the gym a little bit today and go back to what I've done a few times over the last 4 or 5 years of doing these podcasts and break down my current lower body day. And I had a request because a few weeks ago, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, I did a whole podcast about arguing how the push-pull legs is the best workout. So therefore, I actually had a couple questions on specifically on what do I do. I'm not going to do one episode after another because I have a couple topics I want to put out there in the queue, especially next week's will be kind of edgy. But today I want to discuss what my leg day is as far as the push-pull leg split and why I think it's the most optimal leg training that you can do. So I'm going to give you the exact exercises, sets, reps, or rep range, reasons why I do this, and you can run with it. Obviously, I am an advanced lifter, so I have a little bit more volume than if you are a beginner, say within 1 or 2 years of training, where you don't necessarily have to duplicate all the sets that I am doing, because as we talked about before in the past, one of two ways of adding progressive overload is one, doing more weight for the particular number of sets or working sets that you're doing. That's effective. And the second effective method is simply to add sets, more volume, directly by doing that type of work or the combination of two. But ultimately, no matter how much you do, you're going to feel it out for yourself. Where some people can get away with 1 or 2 working sets. Some people may be in the groove of doing 3 or 4. It's totally individual where you got to listen to your body, how you recover, and those strength gains. Because if you are really pushing it and not recovering, not sleeping well, not getting stronger, it just could be the fact that you're doing too much and you need a little bit more time off. So what I like to do for the push-pull leg split is actually have 2 separate lower body workouts, where one is more quad dominant. We'll call that leg day A, and then leg day B would be posterior dominant. Now, here's the reasoning, because back in the day, last year, not even, I would do a 4-day split, and I would hit the entire lower body, which is great. But as we know, there's a lot of muscle groups. There's a lot of attention to detail that we can give, where you have the quadriceps, you got 4 of those little thigh muscles make up the quadriceps. And obviously the posterior chain, the glutes, the calves, the hamstrings. So there is going to be overlap. But specifically, you are targeting anterior on leg day A and then posterior. And now why I think this is a nice combination for a push-pull leg. Because in a 7-day period, you are hitting both anterior, quad dominant, and then the posterior. So you're doing double the amount of the work for a couple of the exercises, but meanwhile, you're splitting it up so you have time to recover. Because if you go back to routine A, or basically the quad dominant A, so you train 3 days in a row, rest, hit B, train 3 days in a row, rest, hit A again. So it's like an 8 or 9 day period where you're hitting the same exercises. But in between, you're also doing the posterior chain. So hopefully you follow. All right, into the nitty nuts and bolts, what I've been doing. Now, as you know, or I may have talked about before, I can't do back squats and I can't do regular deadlifts anymore. So instead of my main exercise, as far as my hack squat, you can squat or deadlift. That's full disclosure. that exercise is in both lower body routines, and only because it's the most powerful exercise that I can do. I enjoy it. But what I will do on A and B when I do the hack squat, I'll change the rep ranges, to keep my attention up. Or you can stick with the same rep ranges, but I'm going to go into the nitty gritty in a second. So when I start off with anterior quad dominant routine A for the legs, first exercise is a leg extension. So basically I am pre-fatiguing the quads and I'm pushing it hard, where I will do a total of 5 sets. 2 are warm-ups, where I'll do anywhere between 10 to 12 reps, getting the blood flow, nothing near failure. And then the next 3 sets, I will pick a weight that is pretty hard, in which the first set, if I do 12 reps, I may only have like 1 to 3 left in the tank, but I will repeat that for another 2 sets. So basically it's 3 working sets. And how I know when to increase the weight is if my goal is to do 12 reps, say, for 50 pounds on the 3 working sets for leg extension, I will then increase it the next time. I'll make that note. If I don't hit the 12 repetitions for all 3 sets, I stick with the same weight. That is progressive overload. I do push it hard, where the blood flow is there, my quads are already fried, and it's tired. But here's the advantage of doing the leg extension before you squat or hack squat or a big compound movement. You're already warmed up, the knees are already warmed up, and you don't need as much weight to do the hack squat or the back squat because of that. Where this routine that I'm describing you is basically putting the ego away, leaving it out at the gym, where you're not going to be chasing numbers if you're doing a powerlifting split. Because back in the day, I would always lead off with the back squat, because numbers were super important to me, squatting 300-400 pounds for reps, where I didn't do any pre-fatigue, pre-exhaust. I went right into back squat, did a number of sets to warm up, and then boom, I did my working, sets and reps with a really high weight. I can't do that anymore. But what I've also learned by doing this, I am bringing back good soreness, because I push it really hard on the leg extension, and then I primed to do the hack squat. So sets and reps for the hack squat, very similar to the first exercise, where I'll do 2 or 3 warm-ups, progressively overload, bring the weight up, and then I'll do additional 3 working sets. Now, when I do the hack squat for the for the quad dominant day, I will push it a little bit heavier, only because my quads are kind of fried, and endurance-wise, I can't handle as many repetitions. Conversely, when I do the hack squat for the posterior, I will do higher repetitions. So the third exercise after leg extension and hack, I will then do a split squat. Basically, it's my own little version, and I need to do a video where the back foot is probably elevated 2 feet, but the front foot, the plant foot on the ground, is also elevated probably about 4 or 5 inches. This allows me to really get a deep stretch. So I will do, again, 5 total sets, 2 warm-ups, and then 3 working sets in the rep range of 10 to 12, where this way I can really focus. And this is a compound exercise because you're hitting the quads, glutes, and hams again, but it's a great finisher for after doing the first 3 movements. After that, I'm pretty much beat, but then I'll do sissy squats, or a good combination. Instead of sissy squats, you can do a goblet or a front squat. For a while, I was doing front squats, but it was bothering my hips, so I did body weight sissy squats, 4 sets, every one to failure, and typically I'll do anywhere between 15 to 25 repetitions. The final exercise, what I call like a fluffer, is just a finisher, is I'll do 2 sets of walking lunges, holding dumbbells. Basically walk back and forth as many times as I can with a weight, typically anywhere between 10 to 15 repetitions, going to failure 2 times. And that pretty much wraps up the anterior part, quad dominant, for my lower body routine. So therefore, moving forward, I will then train my push workout, which another day I can talk about. Then I'll do my pull workout. So basically, that's back and biceps. Day off. And then I will go to doing another leg day, but it's posterior dominant. Again, it can be a little bit different for everyone, because if you want to do deadlifts and squats as far as push pull leg, I would suggest to do squatting with the first one, so basically your quad dominant, and then deadlifting, because that would be 5 days later and your body should be well recovered, and make it part of your posterior chain lower body routine. But for me, I'm sticking to hack squats. So similarly, like what I did for the routine A, instead of leg extensions, I lead off with leg curls. And it's the same idea. 2 warm-ups, 3 working sets. I have my rep range that I'm going for all 3 sets, always going to failure. And if I hit that mark, I increase the weight. After laying down leg curls, I go to hack squats. And as I mentioned to you earlier, since my quads are fresher, I will do higher reps, where the goal would be like anywhere between 10 to 12 for the working stuff after my 3 warm-up sets. It's just what I like doing. Personal preference. Third exercise is, again, posterior dominant type exercise, where I was doing RDLs with a barbell. That felt good, but recently I changed it to single leg RDLs just to pay attention on each side a little bit more. Again, variety, what I'm grooving to. Fourth exercise is another form of or type of doing a split squat, but it's more glute dominant, where the front foot is higher than the back foot. You feel it a little bit more in the glutes, but it's the same idea as a split squat. Down slow, touch, up, don't lock out real hard. Again, for this one, is 4 sets. And then I'll typically finish up with a glute type exercise, high repetition, like glute bridge, or I'll do like walking laterals to hit the glute medius a little bit, again for that fluffer type of exercise. But for sets and reps, it pretty much mimics as far as the first routine, where again, leg curls, 2 warm-ups, 3 working. Hack squat, I'll do 3 warm-up sets, 3 working. RDL, 2 warm-up, 3 working. The split squat with front foot elevated, 4 total. Basically, it's 1 or 2 warm-ups, 2 working. And then I'll do a finisher type exercise like I did the walking lunges for the quad dominant. So what's really nice about this is that, yes, there's a little bit of overlap. So you are hitting lower body, quads, hamstrings, and both. But as you notice, the second one is specifically targeted for the posterior chain, and the first one, anterior, quad dominant. I found it to be a fine combination, where if I did a full lower body routine and then 5 days later did that same full body routine by repeating exercises, I'm not sure if I can recover. I do prescribe workouts similar to that, and people can handle it, but this is just something, a niche that I fell in love with about 3 months ago, and I've been grooving to it. I do change the exercises out probably every 2 or 3 months, but typically they're really close, because again, repetition of doing the same thing, you're going to get better at. I'm not chasing exercises because I've heard, XYZ influencers doing it. You find exercises that work for you because you connect with them. You have that mind-muscle connection. You have the blood flow. You got the pump. You chase the pump. You get a good soreness. And then, of course, you're making strength gains. That basically can be applied to all the workouts that you're doing. And once you find that groove, you stick with it. Don't chase something that is not necessarily not there, because you're going to be wasting your time and starting over all the time. Where just because you're not getting sore doesn't mean it's not a good workout. It means your body's getting used to it. Always go back to your notebook and see if you're progressing. Yes, staleness can happen after 2 or 3 months doing the same exercise. I get it. But sometimes just mixing up the rep ranges can be that stimulus that you need. Or sometimes you may want to just mix it up for 1 or 2 workouts and then get back to your original program. So this is something that I wanted to share with you guys. Take it for what it's worth. Obviously, this workout maybe takes me 90 minutes, a little bit less, depending on how heavy I go or how energetic I may or may not be. But it's a good guideline that you can develop one on your own, or if you're interested in learning how I train even more specifically and with coaches, with clients, to hit me up, fitfranco@verizon.net, and I'll talk to you next time.